All right, Doug, welcome. Welcome to your coaching session. You sent me a business plan in July
Yes,
that was 28 pages, I might add. And so I printed out here. I reread it this morning in preparation for talking to you. So I'm current and I printed out the executive summary and I have a bunch of questions. But what is it that you want to tackle today? How can I help you?
well, basically, I want to get your thoughts about the deficiencies in my business plan. We talked about that earlier. You said that there were some things here that needed to be added, mostly, I guess, that were missing, that would make this more presentable to funders or people that would, help me fund the company. So I'd like to, whatever you can give me in this half hour that would help me get to that point would be much
Okay,
appreciated.
let's talk about the funding. Maybe we'll work backwards
Okay.
and see where we get to. So I had printed out your financing needs from the business plan. And basically, let's just confirm some things. That's about $1 million. Is that correct? And this is a startup. So you're looking for about $1 million.
That's correct. We believe that we can probably make do with 500,000, but it would elongate the process, because we can get started with sales pretty quick. But yeah, we would prefer to get a full tranche of 1 million.
Right. So what I want to try to understand to help answer your question is exactly what the plan is, not what's documented in your business plan, but rather what's in your head and your partner's heads, because there's, I think, three of you coming into this thing, as I recall.
Correct.
Right. What exactly is the idea and the plan here? And so maybe we can tackle that by going through these financing needs. So the first thing you have is purchasing the technology rights. Are these technology rights for sale, or
That
what is the status of that?
basically we have not paid our bills to our software vendor and our hardware vendor and a couple other vendors that in order to release uh technical, ownership to the updates that
You don't have any bills to your company, which is a new company, doesn't have any bills to the software vendor or to anybody else. I think what you're saying, I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that you have in the past worked for another company that is licensing this technology, and that company is in default, and you're leaving that company, setting up a new company, and you want the owner of that technology to stop working with Oldco and relicense that to you. Is that the case?
absolutely you have you nailed it. That is correct.
Okay. So why do you think that have you had discussions with the technology owners? Like, why do you think you have to pay Oldco's debts? They're not related to you.
I have not. So this is just a
Okay.
strong assumption on my part. If I were in their shoes, I would not want to give up something I worked on to somebody else without some type of payment. So that's where this is starting from.
Um, Say that again. If
So
you're the owner of the technology, you have licensed your technology to a third party, to a user exclusively, I would think, and that third party has not performed in the sense that they're not paying you.
well,
And therefore, what are you going to do about it? You're going to stick with them, or are you going to go with somebody new?
no, this is completed product, completed projects. If I were to go with somebody else, I'd be starting from ground zero.
No, no, no. I'm not saying you. I'm saying if I'm the supplier or the owner of this technology, I'm not getting paid from my counterparty right now, and
You're-
so
So, from my perspective, when you say the owner of the technology, you mean these vendors, correct?
I'm saying from whomever you want to buy these purchase technology rights, who
They're
you're
the
buying
Yes,
this for.
they're the vendors right now. They own the work that they have done because they were not paid by company A.
Right.
So I want to get it released to company B or new company, and the only
Yeah.
way I can see doing that is by paying for the work that was completed.
Okay. I would suggest to you that the work that was completed was not paid for, and that's not your problem. clearly you need to cut some deal with these vendors as you put them. Um, but I don't know why that needs to relate to the money that Oldco still owes them. Oldco owes them the money regardless, right?
I would not ask, I would not, and I don't know how to do this, but in my mind, I would not want them to release company A from their, their responsibilities. I'm just trying, like you said, that's a different approach, which you just mentioned. And I think I agree with that is I'd like to purchase that, right? And
Yeah, I like
negotiate,
to purchase
nego-
that.
yeah.
I'm the guy that knows what I'm doing. I'm starting up this new company. Correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, but you're the salesman or the mastermind behind how to sell this technology. Is that true?
Uh, my domain
You,
expert is Scott. So
you
he,
and your team, you and
yes,
your team
yeah,
are the are so Oldco has no particular expertise left in how to go out and sell this, and Newco has all that expertise, and I as a vendor should give you the rights to do this because I have to get paid by the Oldco. That's the bottom line, and so I think you're negotiating. One thing that I think is deficient is this entire new company and business plan is premised on the idea that you can secure these technology rights, and
yes,
correct? And
yes,
you should start that conversation, and you should not be focused on the money that they're owed, but rather the vendor's participation in your business plan because you need to secure financing from every party possible. And I don't mean that they need to write a check, Doug. I just mean that they need to, maybe you need to write them a check and give them some upside to come in for a period of time. Okay. But what you've got right now is 20% of your cash needs goes to buy that technology before you've done anything. And it
well,
seems to me there's a good negotiation to be had there.
yes, but the lion's share of that negotiation has already been completed with the hardware vendor. That and
Okay.
there's already a basic agreement on the table. So I've already taken
Okay.
care of that one. I need to go to the software company now. Actually, the only one that's outstanding right now is the software company.
Okay. I don't believe any of that is in your business plan in summary that someone could
Correct.
read that
It is
and
not.
understand. And I don't know how, as an investor, you're supposed to evaluate a deal that's premised on buying the technology without some description of that deal.
I
So,
will make.
two things.
Yeah.
Okay. So, two things. You need a summary of, there's vendors A, B, and C that are critical to this. You've mentioned hardware, software, so A and B, but whatever it is, A, B, and C, here's the status of negotiations. Mr. Investor, you're not writing a cent until we've locked these deals down, right? I mean,
Yes.
you, why would anybody write you a check of any amount without locking those deals down? And the second part to that is no matter what's been negotiated, you should be trying to negotiate as little money down as possible and some upside in exchange to these vendors to get you on your feet because you have some power too. You're the one that can sell this, you and your team,
Right.
right? This is not they're going to sell to me. They're going to license me. You're not license me. This is we're already in this together, whether we like it or not.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, I'll reach out to the software. Uh, that's the last one in the group that has to
Okay.
be. And then I guess I'll elaborate on the business plan, a section that describes that, yeah, this has been agreed to, communicated and negotiated. So,
Right. So then you get into 40% of your cash needs is basically for a redesign of the product, which is in effect an application of that technology that you're licensing. And so it's referred to in here as refactor design, and it's got
can we step back for a second, Scott?
sure,
You keep referring to licensing. I
yeah.
need to understand what your meaning of that is because
I don't have any meaning for what that is. I just assume that it's a licensing as opposed to a purchase and sale. But maybe I'm wrong.
the technology is ours. It's we're not licensing the technology from company A. Is
Once
that
you buy it, it's yours.
I we already bought it. We paid for it. Mark,
It says
like, go ahead.
it says on here, purchase the technology rights.
Okay. Now I understand the context. Yes, that's correct. This portion of the technology, currently the ownership sits with these vendors. Okay,
Okay.
I understand now.
But you own some other technology and you need all this technology to come together to make this
Correct.
work. Is that correct?
The
And you've
base,
already paid some out of your
yeah,
own pocket for the technology?
yeah, I'm one of the vendors. I paid
Okay.
for, and so did Mark. And
Gotcha.
we're not including everything that we've ponied up in this exercise,
Yeah.
because a lot of what Mark invested was to TNR specifically. So we're staying away from that. Um, Company A. So
Okay. So the refactor design, which is about 40% of your cash needs. What I don't understand from the plan, I understand you need to, for example, need a new case design or what. Like I understand that. There's probably some tooling involved in that. Is
yes,
that
and it's
okay?
moving to, we're doing a cost reduction because we're doing extrusion versus sheet metal.
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing for me that your business plan does not do is talk about um, the importance of this. I mean, this is 40% of your cash needs. Like, why are we doing that? What is the timeline for doing it? How does it improve the profit and loss? Could we do zero improvements and generate some revenue right now to prove the concept? And then over 2 or 3 years, make this improvements over time. That's number one. And number two, it doesn't tell me is soft cost versus tooling. Like tooling, sometimes you can finance that. Okay.
Right.
Whereas the soft costs, the design and the brain power and the labor to go along with it, you can't really finance that. But the tooling, I mean, you would finance it with equity, but the tooling is sometimes financeable with debt. There's other issues, but we talked before about you need to understand what's financeable and what's not financeable, and so you need a breakout of those line items. Does
So,
that make sense?
and that's part of the plan that's not explicitly defined in the plan. Okay.
Correct.
And that portion is, yes, we have a short list to harden the prototype that we currently have to a production ready version. It's a very short list of items to take care of that will allow us to go immediately into a full on sales cycle to use to generate revenue and help, you know, add to the bottom line.
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
we
And
do.
also to
Okay.
prove concept in a new business so that you can raise capital for something that isn't zero revenue.
Yes, and I know I just went through an exercise with the Small Business Loan Administration. I've got a buddy who's pretty high up and has been there forever, and he's trying to help me with
Yeah.
this. And one thing they needed absolutely was 3 months of revenue shown on a bank statement, um, for the new company, which we don't have. And it just that with a couple other things just shut the door on the small business loan. So
Well,
it,
for 3 months, it shuts the door on the
yeah,
small business loan, right?
yeah.
And so, what that tells me. I mean, I'm trying to impress on you that you need some revenue ASAP to raise money. But if you can lock in a small business loan or have an indication of what that loan might look like 4 months out, now you can talk about a bridge loan to get from here to there, right? Because there's a capital structure plan moving forward. And you, at the end of the day, you don't have a capital structure plan. We don't know what we're asking investors to do. We don't know how they get in, what the structure is. We don't know how they get out of this thing, what the exit is. We don't know what the return on investment is in between getting in and getting out, and we don't know the security and what role they have along the way, right? And so, okay, so I think the whole design of this thing needs to be better outlined in the plan, as I said. Now, what about manufacturing? Because there's some sort of one line references to we're going to make manufacturing better, maybe more than one line. I'm not trying to limit that, but Like, I don't understand from reading the plan who's manufacturing and what the risk is there.
Uh, Solera is the manufacturer, Tom Tessier.
So, so it's outsourced.
Yes, but he does have he has a stock ownership in the company as well. So
Okay. I think you need some description of that. Are they capable manufacturers? Have they done this before? Are they the ones that are making it for Oldco? I think they are. And
yes, they are.
and all of that gives me comfort that you can actually produce this thing. And really, what you are is a sales, marketing, implementation front end, and you're not a manufacturer. You outsource the manufacturing. You know the space, you know the technology, and there will be a fee in the sense of a direct materials cost
Yes.
to the manufacturer. You need to explain that in the plan.
Yes, the hardware side of things is my manufacturer. The software design would be within house. It's not the software though. It's going to be with a third party, the development of it. But the software architecture, that's me.
Yep.
So I don't know if that even matters.
It for sure matters. Think of it like a project finance because you are a startup. This is a new situation. Okay. Project finance. Do I have the right to do that? To do this at all? That's the buying the technology. Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
I have the right to do it. Okay. Can I produce it? Yeah. Some of it I'm going to outsource. They have experience. They've done it before. It's low risk. Some of it we're going to do in house, the software. And here's our experience. And we've done it before and it's low risk. Right. And then I've made it. Can I sell it? Yeah. My team is already selling it for Oldco and we're the ones that know the market. Here's some customers that give us, indicative term sheets or comfort letters or something that tells us that they would be interested in buying it when and if you have it, right? Or a purchase order would be way better, obviously.
Now
And
we have some purchase orders with Oldco, but now we have to basically end. We have to NDA and go back to those same customers because they're
correct,
going to be follow-on customers, big
right.
customers. So
Yeah. And so without being critical of the plan, because I think you put a lot of work into it, but really what you've done is you've taken a bunch of information and you put it into 28 pages, but you really haven't outlined a plan, right? We're
no,
going to
I
get
know you,
right.
and I
So,
really appreciate the help here, Scott, because this is a
okay.
first time effort on my part. In
Okay.
terms of writing a professional business plan.
All right. So the rest of this is, some certifications. Oh, there's buying parts in advance. Now I assume that's inventory.
Yes,
Uh, okay. So that's about a tenth of your cash needs. And so inventory is an example of something that maybe could be financed with debt, right?
right.
As with tooling. Okay. Whereas getting certifications, you've got 12 months of admin in here, which is way too much admin for an upfront financing fee. So sales and marketing, those are things that are not really debt.
Okay, so how if 12 months is too long, what is appropriate?
Depends how quickly you think you can generate some revenue and some cash flow turnover.
Probably 6 months.
Um, 6 months makes a lot more sense to me.
Okay, all right.
Okay. All right. So that's the schedule of your cash needs. So I don't think you really need $1 million as it says, but it doesn't really matter. So the first thing an investor is going to wonder that should be in the business plan is like, why do you want 1 million from me? What the hell are you guys contributing to this? How does that work?
Right, and I've already explained to you, my house is what I have left, and so that's what I'll be
Yes.
including in the as collateral. So, uh, until I can get to a point to where I can get some revenue, that 3 months of revenue, which at that
Yeah.
point we would have
Yeah.
something, yeah, to
Yeah.
show.
And what about the other partners? What are they going to put in?
Uh, Mark doesn't have anything left. He just put his house up for sale, and he's already
Okay.
he dumped all of his retirement in the other company. And
Doug,
Scott,
what's the intended shareholdings of this company?
we're split evenly, the three of us, and then Tom comes in at about a third of what. or a half of what
Right.
each of us has.
So if you're the only one willing to put up your house or have, and I'm not saying they're not willing, I'm just saying they don't have any assets, uh,
Right.
and and you're the one funding this, what are you getting in return special from the other partners? Are you getting more shares? Are you getting some debt? Like, why are you the one putting yourself on the line and they're not?
Well,
Apart from capability,
okay. So, well, Scott, that's what Scott brings in droves. Scott's domain knowledge and experience is just, he can make a sale just because he knows these people, he talks their language, and he's an expert. So, I mean,
okay?
that's what Scott brings to the table. So, I have to ask you, is this something, this type of question and knowledge, is this something that an investor is going to look at?
Yeah, 100% they are. They're going to look at it from a couple of different perspectives. They're going to look at it from the perspective of um, why if it's $1 million, am I putting in $1 million and these guys aren't putting in anything, right? Or I'm putting in $1 million, but part of that is is secured by Doug's uh, personal real estate. Cool, that helps me out. Now I know Doug's got some skin in the game. What about the other guys? Do they have skin in the game? And if they don't have skin in the game, uh, how do I know that they're motivated? Right. So that's what an investor's going to think about. What Doug should be thinking about is why he's giving away probably 2/3 of his company when he's the only guy putting the money in.
Yeah, let me answer that question with
You're
you.
okay with that part already?
Oh, yeah, these guys have poured their life and soul into this.
Okay.
And yeah, that's part of company A, the previous company. I get there's
Yeah.
no real legal beyond emotional tie-in with that. But
Yeah.
we're partners. And from a loyalty perspective and from what they've already gone through, Doug, as myself, I can't overlook that. Now I know
Okay.
from a
I want you to let me cut to the chase. I just want you to think about something, Doug. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have
no,
to take
no,
my
no,
advice.
I'm listening.
If you wanna be equal partners out of a loyalty or past history or whatever, cool. You do what you need to do on that front. If you're the only guy putting your house at risk and putting money in personally, you should have another mechanism to get that money out before they do. Just that money that you put in. And
Okay,
you can do
all
that
right,
through secured debt to the company. You can do that a bunch of different ways.
that makes sense.
But you and I should not be 50-50 partners if you're the only guy putting your house on the line and I'm not putting anything on the line. And you can't say to me, well, you get the 50%, Scott, because you're super value added and I'm loyal to you. Well, I'm super value added. I'm probably going to have compensation as an employee on top of all this. And that's covering me for my sales ability or what have you, right?
Well, and
Ultimately.
that is, Scott, to be honest, that's part of this process. Securing it with
Yeah.
my house allows me to pay myself a salary without any
Yeah.
questions being asked by the other partners.
Yeah.
One partner will not ask me questions because he understands the situation I'm in. The other one will. But so this will is a
Yeah.
leverage tactic at the same time.
Yeah. Doug, I see businesses all the time, startups, you 2 years down the road from now, that have inevitably 100% of the time run into trouble because that's just business.
Yeah.
That's being an entrepreneur, right? And and the guy in your shoes, the guy that put in the money and the other partners did not, is the guy that loses, whereas the other partners lose their time, but they don't lose their house, right? And I see that every day, and it's hard to mitigate. But the way to make that more fair to you is to make sure that you get that money back before they get whatever they're getting.
Got it.
Okay,
Thank you
so I
for
want
the
you to think about that.
investment. Yeah.
And the second thing I want you to think about is how do you convince an investor, whether it be a debt holder or an equity player, how do you convince them that you have skin in the game? And certainly the house helps on that. You also said that you developed your technology and you're contributing that technology,
I'm
correct?
on the software side, yes.
Yeah.
If I'm
So what
understanding
is the
your question
value?
correctly.
Well, it's not a question, it's a statement. What is the value of what you already developed and you own?
Uh, I've provided the architecture for the
Yeah.
software app.
But put a number on it. Let's just for round numbers right now.
Oh, I haven't even thought about that before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably both because I've already architected out new major applications that go along with the base hardware technology. So I would assume what I would add would be about $250,000. I
Okay.
mean,
So think
off the
about
top
that
of my
number,
head.
but sure. So put some more thought into that. Talk to your partners about it. But if it's $250,000, then I would suggest to you your capital needs of this company are 1.25 million, not 1 million, and that you in fact are contributing $250,000 out of your pocket into that funding need, plus your house.
Okay. Yes.
Now you have skin in the game, and that's fair. And that's fair because what we do as entrepreneurs, if we're uninitiated in this, is we commingle everything as if it's the same pot, but it's not. You need to think about wearing your different hats. My personal hat, my funding hat, my CEO hat, my shareholder hat, my director hat. These are all different obligations, responsibilities, and
Right.
opportunities. Okay. And if you're contributing your personal assets to this company that you don't own 100% of, right? And you're bringing in third party money, you hope, then that should be valued fairly, right? And it should be disclosed that it's related party, that transfer in, but it is in fact a need of the company and it's something that you've contributed in. This is not zero. This is not no skin in the game at all. And you're not addressing that in the plan.
Okay. All right.
Make sense?
It does.
Okay. Now, you're looking for $1 million as the plan is. Yet it says that your goal for year two is to do $450,000 in revenue. And there's no net income projections on that. There's
Oh,
no profit and loss
right.
projection. And I recognize it's a minimum of 460,000. But it's like in the first paragraph of the executive summary. So it's the number I'm fixed on. And what I'm thinking in my head is, okay, um, what's the net on that? Well, normal business would be say 10%, call it $46,000 per annum. Maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's 15%. Let's call it, I don't know, 60,000 for round numbers. If that's the net profit, how the hell is $1 million ever going to get paid back, or what's the return on investment?
Net profit is more closer to, as even at today with what we know about the cost of the goods sold,
Yeah,
is closer to 50. And the goal here is to get it a higher number than that.
50% or $50,000.
50%.
Okay, so that brings you to $230,000.
Yes.
So that's not spelled out in your business plan. You're looking for deficiencies. There should be a financial model, like month by month, that communicates here's what we're going to do to build out this business. And I should, as an investor, be able to see the revenues coming in and the costs and all this stuff, right? So that I know, businesses in your situation don't go bust because their profit and loss don't work. They don't go bust because they don't think about the short-term cash flow needs. Yeah, we generated a bunch of revenue, but we're not collecting for 120 days. Yet we had to pay the supplier up front because we're a new company. And every time we sell something, it creates this negative cash flow cycle. And we didn't think about that, right? That's so you need a model, a financial projection month by month, which deals with that sort of stuff. But in particular, as an investor, whether it be debt or equity, I want to know that I can get out of this thing and what my return is going to be. And that's tied to cash flow. It's tied to profit and loss. And And if you're generating $230,000 net income, well, now all of a sudden you can put a multiple on that if this is an equity play, and you can think, okay, well, these guys can exit at some point, and I can make some money off this investment, or it's enough to service the debt or what have you, right? But you need the numbers to be able to do that. There's no numbers in this plan that speak to any of that.
Okay, Scott, do you have any examples of a cash flow plan that I could build off of and make my own?
I do. I do. I was going to tell you that we used to put templates on the Sinclair Range website. I'm not sure that's still true, but I will take a look for you. And if you
Okay,
remind me by text or email, I will get back to you on that.
perfect. Also, while I'm talking about this kind of stuff, can I get a copy of this Zoom call?
100%. Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
great, great.
Yeah. So you don't have to take notes.
Yeah,
You
I'm
can go
horrible
through it.
that way. That's one thing I can't multitask on.
Okay. So your likely sources for capital. You talked about a small business administration loan, which I believe to be, don't hold me to this. I have people in my firm that are more experts at that than I am specifically, but I believe they're just term loans for small businesses such as yourself. Um, but conceptually speaking, this $1 million can be broken down into parts that make sense for debt. Like that might be inventory and tooling, for example. Accounts receivable could be a facility for that, whether it's factored or not factored. And an equity piece, which is something that is, relates to the use of proceeds that you need that are not financeable, the soft costs, the working capital on hand. Okay, and so we can explore that more, but the equity piece, you need to talk about how an equity investor is going to get their money out, because how does an equity investor ever get paid if you never exit? So what are your intentions? Are you going to grow this business and sell it 5 years from now? Are you going to
Yes.
merge with other people? How do you create some liquidity?
Well, you've brought up two things that are. I know one focus is selling. I mean, that's the
Yep.
primary. Secondary is getting a company like, well, I mean, maybe partnering with a company like ACR. Uh, and there's another one. I forget the other company we've had. Company A has had relations with both the beacon companies, and this kind of is a natural. So
Right. Okay. So that would involve you selling and getting some sort of payout, and the equity holder would participate in that.
correct.
Okay. So I think that your plan needs to talk about that. Now, we're getting ahead of ourselves, and I can't give you specific coaching on what that should look like, because I haven't seen any numbers. So I don't really know. But typically, conceptually, would be okay, well, 5 years from now, we're going to be, let's make up numbers, $1 million in revenue, or $2 million, 2 million in revenue. So we're spitting out $1 million net income at a 50% margin, right? That's your
Right.
idea. And you could see a projection plan that sort of builds up to that 2 million. It seems really plausible that to an investor that you could reach that number because you've had experience at selling and creating this technology, and there's a market for it, and I understand that market, and you're at 2 million, it nets out 50%, nets out $1 million, and that could be sold to a strategic purchaser um, at a multiple of 4 to 6 times, somewhere in that range, which means $4 to $6 million exit. Okay, I made up the numbers, but your plan needs to sort of describe that. And so, as an equity investor, I think to myself, well, if I put in a $1 million today, and I have, again, you shouldn't take $1 million of equity, but if I put in $1 million today and I own half this company, then half of that $4 to $6 million is mine 5 years down the road.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Right. And then what you want to do is you want to make that return better than the hypothetical numbers I just made up, because that's still not an awesome return for equity risk. And you do that by putting some debt in front of it. You do that by making sure that the equity people get out first before the non-contributing shareholders. right? There's ways to play with that to juice up the returns and therefore attractiveness to an equity holder. I can't give you specifics on that until we see some numbers, but you need to start thinking that way.
Yep, I'm hyper motivated to get that portion of this done and get it back to you. I want to get this done as soon as possible.
Okay. I know you are. I know you are. So that to me is the are the deficiencies in the plan. Apart from, I would take this from 28 pages and put it into 10. This
Okay.
is it's too much. And again, God bless you. You've taken a bunch of information, you've thrown it onto a Word document and done your best to organize it.
Right.
Okay, but you're you're not telling a narrative. You're not telling a story
Got it.
to investors. Okay, you're just throwing out a bunch of information. And to be honest with you, why do I even want to read 28 pages of just random information sort of thrown together? I
Well,
need a
that's
narrative.
going to be the hardest task here to boil that down, but I can do it.
Well, what you can do is you can start by deleting all the stuff about Oldco and the
Yes.
risks associated with that,
Yes. Yes.
because
Yes.
none of that has anything to do with you.
Okay. Good. No,
And
I mean
that's like half
that
of
was
this document.
I know, and it was put in there for the benefit. Well, I mean, it was put in there because I'm a newbie to this, and I was trying to be as honest as possible. And
100%.
yeah.
I agree. That comes out. Okay.
Okay.
As an investor, I want to know my risks. But if I've done my due diligence and that the I know that the technology is properly licensed, no one else has a claim on it, I'm good to go. Um, and you're free and clear to work and get a salary. Like that's what I need to know. I don't need to understand the background of Oldco and the nightmare that those guys put you through.
Yeah, and one thing, what was it gonna? Oh, it just slipped right out. Went in one ear and out the other. That thought. Oh shoot. Okay, I'm not going to pick that up
Okay.
in the phone call.
I think we're wrapping up on the time we have allotted. But last thing I want to tell you, beyond this plan, I want you to start creating and saving documents for a data room in the future. Because if your plan catches some attention, that angel investor, equity investor, bridge loan investor, debt loan, whoever it is, they're going to start asking you for due diligence. And you need to be prepared to respond to that. You need contracts, employment agreements, financial statements, whatever it is, um, the code and escrow or whatever it is that you need to help due diligence. Um, from a prospective investor, you should start organizing that now, because what you don't want is someone to say, okay, cool, I want to take a harder look at this. And then it takes you 6 weeks to put the information together and you lose all your momentum.
Got it. Yeah, that sounds great. I'll definitely need some hand holding on
Yep.
that list. So
Okay. All right. Anything else for this session?
no, this is great. This gives me meat to work on. I really appreciate it, Scott.
All right. Call anytime. Schedule another one whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, it'll be pretty quick.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right.
Ted. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.